At the end of Shang Chi, we were left wondering and asking questions to ourselves about where the Ten Rings come from and how old they are, and the origins of the Ten Rings and how when we got them. And it kind of left us with leading on to Shang Chi 2, or today what I'm going to talk about how the Ten Rings have a big connection to the Eternals. Now, I think that they probably are, and it does make a lot of sense why they could be, and I'm going to go over every single reason why they could link to the Eternals and why it could lead on into Eternals 2, or maybe even them appearing in Shang-Chi 2. It would be very cool to see, and I do think they should belong to the Eternals, but we'll get into that in a minute. So if you do enjoy this video today, please like and subscribe, and obviously we have a gaming channel now, so I'll put the link in the description if you want to go check that out. That'll be make our day, and yeah, let's get into the video. So it was the post-credit scene. Well, there was two post-credit scenes. This was the first post-credit scene of the film, and yeah, it has Shang-Chi, Wong, Katie, Captain Marvel, and Bruce. Now they're all there trying to with the rings and talking about what they are and how trying to discover what they really truly are. And the first thing it was that Wong couldn't find them on their codex, meaning that they could belong to Eternals, as not many artifacts are usually seen on their codex belonging to Eternals, but usually artifacts that belong out of space, which are usually, or out of their time, which are usually found on the codex in this Sanctum Sanctorum, which it was. I mean, the only Eternal artifact that they had was in the Eternal film, when that little dagger that Cersei gave to that little boy or little girl at the start of Eternals. In the first bit to the little boy, he gave the dagger to, and then they had it over time, and that was the only artifact that we've seen from the Eternals that was given over time into the humans. So there isn't really many Eternal artifacts around, so that is one reason. Captain Marvel, she's never seen alien tech like that before, indicating that they must be old and not belonging to someone she has seen before, which does lead to the Eternals, because she's probably never heard or seen the Eternals before, and that obviously shows that, because Captain Marvel basically knows a lot about aliens and their tech and stuff like that, and the Chitauri, and it doesn't belong to them, even Bruce said that. So it does seem like it could belong to the Eternals, seeing that Captain Marvel doesn't really know who the Eternals are and what they use as weapons, obviously as alien tech. Obviously, Eternals don't use alien tech, so it obviously doesn't belong to that. So it obviously doesn't belong to an alien type species. So it must probably lead to the Eternals, hopefully. Bruce states that the rings are much older than 1,000 years old when talking about how long Wenwu had them, and obviously, as we know, the Eternals are a lot older than 1,000 years. Obviously, as we know from the Eternals, they were practically made literally billions of years ago. They were literally the first, but practically the first people on Earth, basically, like with the cavemen and stuff like that. So yeah, they are a lot older than 1,000 years old. Obviously, as we know, they've been around for a very long time. The Eternals have, so that obviously shows that the Ten Rings are a lot older than 1,000 years, as they state in that, and when we had them for longer than 1,000 years. So yeah, I think it does show that it does mean that the rings have been around for a lot longer than we all know, and the Eternals have been around a lot longer than, obviously, as we know. Well, they are a lot older than we know from the start of the Eternals. Now, the rings are cosmic energy, kind of like what all the Eternals' abilities are. Most of the Eternals' abilities are obviously cosmic energy, which is pretty obvious. They would have cosmic energy, as they are beings that are made from Celestials, who are made to have that kind of power. So I do think the rings, leading on to the next point, I do think the rings belong to each of the members. So this is the next point, 10 Eternal members, one ring for each member. Obviously, altogether, the rings are much powerful altogether. But even one ring for each of the Eternals members, that would be incredibly powerful. And yeah, I think that's what they were really made for, but maybe they weren't found by the Eternals, maybe, or they were just left. And Wenwu or someone before had got them, and then Wenwu got them. I don't know. I do think they belong to the Eternals. As we know, the rings are cosmic energy, like the Eternals' powers, and they do kind of look like with the blue, and whoever owns it does look like, when Shang-Chi gets the rings, they turn to orange. When Wu had them, they were blue. So maybe when each member of the Eternals had one of them, they had their own but each had a color or their own unique color on the rings, and maybe they yeah, it's just they do the rings do look like something the Eternals would use. When we saw the Eternals, obviously they had cosmic energy as power, so I do think they do link to the Eternals a lot when it comes to power and how they are used. Um, the beacon from the rings, as we saw in the Shang-Chi post-credit scene, maybe calling out to the Eternals as they may be in trouble, which leads us into Eternals 2, but more likely Shang-Chi 2, seeing that the Eternals are in trouble with the Celestials, but maybe that could be the beacon calling out to the Eternals, because obviously the Eternals are in danger. Maybe the rings know that. Maybe the rings were created by the Eternals themselves, and maybe they left them on Earth, maybe for someone to find. But I don't think they would leave something like that for humans to find. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. I think it would make a lot of sense if it is a beacon. They were made by the Eternals, and it is a beacon for someone to help the Eternals, as they are in danger from the Celestials, as they're gonna on Judgment Day, as we know from Eternals 2. When Arashim came down and took Cersei and the rest of the Eternals away, because they obviously helped Earth when when it was supposed to be destroyed. So as we know, obviously they left Earth how it was. So maybe the rings are a signal to someone else trying to help the Eternals. Now obviously it probably won't be Shang-Chi trying to help the Eternals, as he probably won't go out of space. So maybe it might be Eternals 2 that he might pop up in, but who knows? The 10 rings could lead to anything that we possibly don't know about in the MCU yet. But tell me what you guys think. I do think that the 10 rings do belong to the Eternals. Obviously, obviously all the points I made in the post-credit scene, and everything we know from the Eternals film, it does look like the rings do belong to the Eternals themselves, and maybe each of them own one of them. As alone the rings, even one of the rings is very powerful, as we saw in the film when Shang-Chi got them. So yeah, tell me what you guys think about this. It would be very cool if they did belong to the Eternals, and it would make a lot of sense, as I made all the points about it, with the cosmic energy, them belonging to each member, and the beacon calling out to. There was like a beacon calling out in the Shang-Chi post-credit scene. So maybe they're calling out for one of the Eternals. Maybe, I'm not too sure. Obviously, as we know from the Eternals, some of the members did die. So obviously all the rings, obviously when where they were made, all 10 of them were still alive, but they did die. Some of them, like Icarus and stuff like that. Sprite isn't an Eternal anymore. So yeah, this could lead into anything. These 10 rings and Shang-Chi 2 and Eternals 2. It could, obviously Eternals 2 is going to be about with probably the Celestials and what the Eternals' punishment is. But yeah, tell us what you guys think, like I just said. And I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you had a good day, and goodbye.